Hello, my name is Mateta, and welcome to the FPL Scope and the weekly wildcard draft for Game Week 30, where I have actually, for once, activated my wildcard chip. This is my current team that I'm going to present to you guys to show you how I'm thinking currently. But of course, this is before the weekend's FA Cup matches, which will determine quite a lot when it comes to which teams that can or cannot double in Game Week 33 specifically, and potentially Game Week 36 as well. So we'll have to take that into account, and my team is going to change by the end of the deadline, I'm sure, as well. So my final wildcard draft is going to come in the team selection video that's going to be posted on Monday, I think, next week. But I figured I should just give you some thoughts into the players that I've been thinking about and which players that I'm currently sort of locked into having and which players I am considering. So usually I start these videos, or lately at least, I've been starting these videos by telling you that you should, whether you should wildcard or not currently. And for me, it was pretty much a simple decision because I have my assistant manager chip left, which means that I want to use that in Game Week 31, 32, and 33 because I want to free hit in 34 and I want to get those double game weeks in 32 and Game Week 33 for the most powerful chip in the game, which is the assistant manager chip. So for me, there was no other option. I can't wildcard in Game Week 31, and I can't wildcard in Game Week 35 either because my team just wouldn't be good enough for these next few game weeks. So for me, it was quite an easy decision to wildcard. But I think personally, if I had used my assistant manager chip earlier this season, I would probably wait until we get more proper news about the double game weeks going forward, because I feel like there's going to be some surprises, and I feel like we're not going to know exactly what's going to happen until it's announced. And it's most likely not going to be announced until before the Game Week 31 deadline rather than Game Week 30 deadline. This is going to be more guesswork as to which teams will double and which teams will not double. But at least we'll get the FA Cup results this weekend to tell us which teams that can actually double in Game Week 33. So I'll have that information in mind once I do the team selection video eventually. But for now, I'm going to have to go off of what I think will happen in the FA Cup games. So the team will be sort of affected by that, but I'm going to talk more about it throughout the team as I present the players that are in my current wildcard draft to you right now. So this is a series that I do every single game week, whether I am wildcarding or not, where I try to select what I think is the best team to have in Fantasy Premier League going forward in the next few game weeks. And that's what I'm going to do right here as well. And as always, I'm going to present it in an NFL or an NBA type of draft where the number one pick, the number one draft pick as it were, is going to be the player that I think is the most important to have currently in FPL. And then the 15th pick is going to be the player that I'm the most unsure about having in the squad that still made the squad. I'm also going to talk about the players that dropped out since the last draft that I did on March 12th, which is quite a while ago now, since we've had a pretty long break now with the international break. So I'm going to go through the players that have been dropped since last time, and I'm also going to talk about 3 players that were close to making the squad, but didn't for some reason or another. So let's just go straight into it with the number one pick this week, which is a new player. It is actually Alexander Isak. It is usually Salah who's the number one pick, but for now, seeing as he has no double game weeks, there are going to be game weeks where you want to play other players than him, or you want to start other players than him. I have actually moved on to Isak, who has a double game week in Game Week 32. He also has 2 really good fixtures in Game Week 30 and 31, so it just makes a lot of sense to have Newcastle players currently, I think. With the matches that they have, 3 out of the 4 are home matches. The 1 away match in the next 4 is against Leicester, which is the worst team in the league. So I think just fixtures-wise, Newcastle are just absolutely fantastic, and Isak is in terrific form as always. He is just a terrific player. You can't really say it's form now. Class is temporary. Form is temporary, class is permanent is what I should say. And Isak is just class. He showed that in the Sweden game now recently, yesterday I think it was, as the day of this recording. On Wednesday it should be more, if I want to be more precise, or should I say Tuesday, if I want to be more precise. So he's in good form. He is not injured. And I think he's going to be a fantastic player to have currently in FPL or in the next few game weeks. Game Week 32, he's going to be the most popular captaincy choice by far. And you sort of just need to have him in your team at this point. He's just that good. He's going to be a bit more expensive next season, so you might as well just get the benefits from him now that you can. And now that he's done with his blank game week and stuff as well, he's going to have a double game week. No blanks scheduled. He probably is not going to blank in either Game Week 34 or 37 either, because I don't think Newcastle have a chance to get a blank game week there anyway. So yeah, Isak, a really safe option for especially the immediate future. But even if I had to stay the whole season with him, I wouldn't be too unhappy because he is just a terrific player in general. So yeah, just happy to have him, and he's number one for that reason, because yeah, he's just really, really good. Number 2, it is Mo Salah still. I still want to have him in the team. I still going to go throughout the season with Salah in the squad. It was just like a small window between my first wildcard in Game Week 6 and like Game Week 10, I think. Those were the only 4 like game weeks where I didn't have Salah this season. The rest of the season I have had him for good reason, because he's been the greatest FPL player of all time, eclipsing his own FPL record. And I think that's going to continue at least for the short term, until Liverpool wrap up the league. They don't really have much else to play for now, Liverpool, and Salah is always going to play for just making sure his goal scoring and assist record is better and better and better. And he's going to be demanding to play every single game, and they sort of need to meet his demands now because they do want to sign him on a new contract. So I think Salah's going to play pretty much 90 minutes every single game for the end of the season, regardless of if they win the league or not. And he's going to chase the assists and goals type of records, and the assist plus goals record as well in the Premier League, which he can easily break as well. So yeah, Salah is still a fantastic pick. He has some pretty decent fixtures. Everton, which is a resurgent team now under David Moyes, but we've seen Salah just recently against the David Moyes led Everton, where Salah still got a lot of points. Fulham away is a bit of a tough fixture, but still Salah can score against anyone. And then West Ham at home, which is one of his favorite fixtures, even though that is in the double Game Week 32 for Isak, so you're not going to captain him there, but he's going to be a really important player there. And then Game Week 33 as well, which is going to be the double. You still want to play Salah, even though he has just one game, because he plays Leicester, and he can easily outscore several double Game Week players in that game week as well. So for me, still an easy decision. Salah is absolutely amazing, even though he's not going to win the Ballon d'Or apparently this season either, which is kind of crazy for me. But yeah, Salah is just absolutely amazing. So yeah, he's still in the team, even though he's number 2 now rather than number 1 that he was previously. Number 3, we have Jean-Philippe Mateta, and that is for one big reason, and that is the fact that he might have 2 double game weeks in a row. We already know he's going to have a double game week in 32 against Man City and Newcastle away. Not the best fixtures, but we've seen Crystal Palace in recent weeks be a really good team, so wouldn't put it past Mateta to score against anyone. And then finally, in Game Week 33 as well, he might also get a double game week if they go through in the FA Cup and they reschedule the match, which they most likely will do because they are facing Arsenal in that double game week fixture, and Arsenal are still in the Champions League and they can't really put that into any other game week. So yeah, most likely if Palace go through, if they beat Fulham in the FA Cup this weekend, they are going to have a double-double, both in 32, which is confirmed already, and in Game Week 33, which is not confirmed. And that's why I have Arsenal there, the Arsenal away fixture there, as you can see, with the yellow font on the Arsenal, where it says ARS, which is signifies Arsenal. It's marked with yellow because that is still not a confirmed fixture, but it could happen, especially if Crystal Palace go through in the FA Cup. It most likely happens anyway. So yeah, regardless of that, I think with the easy fixtures against Southampton and then Brighton at home in the next 2 fixtures for Crystal Palace, and then the double game week, I think Mateta just makes sense either way, even if they don't get a double game week in 33. So yeah, he's just an easy pick. He's been so good recently in really, really good form. And I really like Crystal Palace's chances of doing really well to the end of the season as well. I did have them pretty high up in the table in my predictions preseason, and now they're finally living up to that, and they might actually climb all the way up to the European spots at this rate, because they are doing really, really well. And they're getting closer and closer to those teams chasing up the 5th position in the table. So yeah, they have plenty to play for. They might get a double game week, and they also have really good fixtures before that as well. So Mateta, as the best player, the best attacking asset from that team, is also pretty much a given in my squad, whether they are doubling or not. Whether they lose against Fulham this weekend or they don't, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have Mateta anyway, because I might as well just have him for Game Week 32 and then sell him for Game Week 33 if they don't have a double in that game week. But yeah, he makes a lot of sense, so he comes in at number 3. Number 4, I'm going to continue with the Crystal Palace players. Muñoz as well, really quite like him as well. He's shown a lot of promise lately, getting a lot of points, both in terms of getting clean sheets and in terms of getting attacking returns. He's a super attacking fullback or wingback, if for that matter. Plays almost as a striker at some points in the game. Sometimes he's the most forward player at Crystal Palace, which is kind of crazy for a defender in FPL. So he just makes a lot of sense as well with all those other reasons that I mentioned for Mateta. So yeah, pretty easy decision there to have Muñoz as my number 4 pick. As for the final 3rd Crystal Palace pick, I don't have one in the squad right now, and that's because I'm looking to probably, at least in Game Week 32, have Crystal Palace Oliver Glasner as my assistant manager. Maybe in Game Week 31 as well. I might start with Palace. Hopefully I can go the whole way with Palace players. If I get it, if everything falls correctly, I could potentially have 4 out of 5 matches in those 3 game weeks with table bonus for Crystal Palace in really good form. So I'm hoping and crossing my fingers that will happen. It requires some luck. They sort of need to, like, I want them to win against Southampton, obviously, because I have Muñoz and Mateta, most likely, for the wildcard draft. But then I need basically Brighton to draw against Aston Villa, and I need Brentford to get a draw against Newcastle, potentially. If that happens, I think the match between Brighton and Palace will be a table bonus match for the Palace players, or the Palace manager, I should say, in Gloucester, which would be perfect for me. But I'm going to go more into the assistant manager thing later on. But yeah, when it comes to Crystal Palace, Mateta and Muñoz, I think, are the two best assets by far there. I don't really trust Eze and Sar that much myself. Sar has been really good lately and had really good numbers lately as well. But my experiences this season with Sar have not been good. So yeah, I'm kind of happy to just have two Crystal Palace players currently, and then leaving that final spot open for Gloucester, because I think at least in one of these 3 game weeks, I'm going to have Gloucester as my assistant manager. So I want to leave that option open, basically. But yeah, Mateta number 3, Muñoz number 4, and that's the Crystal Palace players done for now, at least. Number 5, we have Justin Kluivert from Bournemouth, and I think Bournemouth are also in a pretty good position. They are facing Man City in the FA Cup, and if they go through, then they might get a double in Game Week 33 as well, if they get that fixture against Man United moved, especially as well, again, like with Crystal Palace, Man United are still in Europe, which means that this fixture between Bournemouth and Man United most likely will have to be put forward to Game Week 33, meaning that Kluivert gets a double game week in 33. He could also get a double game week in Game Week 36, most likely, because they are facing Manchester City in Game Week 37, which would be the blank for any team that reaches the FA Cup final. So yeah, whether it is Bournemouth going through or Man City going through, they just need to win the semi-final game for the fixture between Bournemouth and Man City in Game Week 37 to be moved to Game Week 36 to become a double game week. So there's a pretty high likelihood that Bournemouth and Man City will double in Game Week 36, and that means that it makes a lot of sense to have players from those teams in your squad. And Kluivert is the best out of the bunch, in my opinion, especially for the price that he is. Really cheap. He's been so good lately as well. He's getting points most game weeks. He's the penalty taker for Bournemouth. His minutes aren't really that big of an issue. He plays 70 minutes most likely, and then sometimes gets subbed off, sadly. But he's still just a really, really good asset who's been really good for me lately, and has terrific fixtures as well, leading up to potentially having a double in Game Week 33, and also pretty decent likelihood of getting a double game week in Game Week 36 as well, I would say. So yeah, Kluivert, I think, is a pretty easy choice at number 5. I had him in the squad for a while now. He was actually number 3 last time around, so maybe it could be even higher, but I just quite like the Palace players on top of the Salah and Isak no-brainer picks as well. But Kluivert is the best of the rest, and he comes in at number 5 for that reason. Number 6, we have Anthony Gordon, who is now still suspended. As you can see, the game against Brentford, he's not going to be able to play. It is marked in red because he is suspended for that game. But after that, Leicester away and the double game week against Man United and Crystal Palace just makes a lot of sense to have Gordon, who's been really good this whole season. He's in really fine form. He plays for England. He is, just a really good player to have in general. And I want to keep him, and I don't want to I don't want to waste the transfer by not having him in the wildcard squad. So yeah, he's also a pretty certain player to have for me. Regardless of what happens, Newcastle can't actually double, I think, in any other game week. So yeah, just regardless, I think Newcastle players for the next few game weeks are really good. Even with someone like Gordon who's suspended, he's still going to be a really good asset because Newcastle have those really nice fixtures in game week 31 and 32. There's no other team I want to have players from in those 2 game weeks than Newcastle. So yeah, I'm going to double up with Isak and Gordon, and then I can just sell Gordon for game week 33, where I can get a double game week player instead. So yeah, pretty perfect setup there, and yeah, really like Gordon to being in the squad as well, on top of Isak, who's obviously the best Newcastle asset. But I think with the fixtures that they have, so many good home fixtures as well, even though Gordon can't play the first one, yeah, it's a pretty easy choice to have 2 Newcastle attacking players because they have been really good all season as well. So yeah, Gordon comes in at number 6. Number 7, we have Gabriel Magalhaes from Arsenal, who is one of my favorite FPL players of all time. Again, it is the caveat that he might have a double game week in 33 and he might not have a double game week in 33. I think they also have a decent chance, or like have a potential chance of getting a double game week in game week 36. I'm actually just looking that up as I'm speaking now. I can't remember exactly who they're facing. And now I'm not logged into FPL, so I'm not going to check that anyway. But yeah, at least they have a decent chance of getting a double game week in game week 33. And Arsenal are also just the best defensive team in the league as well. You'd expect them to keep clean sheets. You also expect Gabriel to have some attacking set-piece threat, but that has been a while since we've seen something from that when it comes to Gabriel scoring goals. Start of the season, he scored like all the time, it felt like. But it seems like Arsenal's like set piece thing has sort of been found out a little bit, because they are struggling a bit more with scoring now than they did previously in the season. But Gabriel, still a really good asset, still really quite like him. I can actually just take the next player as well, because there's another Arsenal defender here in the squad at number 8, and that's Jurriën Timber. Again, it's just the easy fixtures that they have for most of the season now. Just really liking their defense in general, and the fact that I am hoping that they get the double game week again against Crystal Palace as well. If they don't get that double game week, pretty easy to sell one of them and get Guardiola as well, who's in that same price range. I think I would just do Timber and Guardiola if that's the case, because I might not be able to afford everything I want if it's not for that solution, basically. But I do prefer Gabriel over Timber just slightly, because of that added goal threat, and also just being slightly more secure as a player in the team as well. Timber, he is most likely going to start most games, but we've seen Miles Lewis-Skelly be really good at left back. We know Ben White is really good at right back. He could be making that right back spot his own as well. So not quite as sold on Timber as I am with Gabriel in terms of being a player that I want, but I do feel pretty certain that Timber is going to play most games. And he's also cheaper than Gabriel, which would allow me to spend money elsewhere as well. So yeah, some pluses and minuses with those two players. I do have like a slight edge for Gabriel, but I do quite like both of them, especially if they get that double game week fixture in Game Week 33, which I'm hoping they will get if Crystal Palace beat Fulham, which would be really, really nice for me with my assistant managership. Potentially also getting all those fixtures with Palace that I talked about previously. But yeah, Timber and Gabriel, or Gabriel and Timber, I should say, are number 7 and 8 in the draft. Number 9, we have Omar Marmoush from Manchester City, and that's not the Manchester City striker that most people have, because most people are going with Haaland. But for me, I think there's just money to be made elsewhere in the team by not having Haaland. I think his price is just too much for someone that I'm not going to captain most game weeks. I am going to captain Salah against Everton at home rather than I would captain Haaland against Leicester at home. So yeah, for me, I just prefer Salah over Haaland, and that's why I don't really have Haaland. I want to spend that money elsewhere, and you'll see that with my squad that I have some extra money left for some other pretty nice players to have currently. So yeah, when it comes to Marmoush, I'm pretty happy with him anyways. He outscored Haaland this past game week. Haaland now played for Norway. He scored, 2 goals out of 8 goals that Norway scored over 2 games. So even for Norway, he's not even scoring most of the goals. So yeah, he is like a decent player. He is going to get he is going to get a goal here and there, but I don't think that's worth it for the price that he is currently. So yeah, by not captaining him most game weeks, I think I can get away with it. It's the Game Week 33 fixture against Everton and Aston Villa, which is kind of more tricky, but I might also bring him in for that fixture potentially as well. Or maybe not even that. Maybe it's Game Week 36 I might bring him in. That's the main thing for Haaland. He has most likely, or good chance of having 2 double game weeks in Game Week 33 and Game Week 36. If that happens to be the case, then yeah, maybe I should go with him. But for now, I just think Marmoush is just as good almost, especially for the price. Like, you can afford 2 Marmoushes from 1 Haaland, which is kind of insane. I don't think it's that much. It shouldn't be that much between them. I just feel like Marmoush is better value. So yeah, I just prefer Marmoush. And when it comes to Man City, like I said, they have decent chances of getting double game weeks in 33 and 36. And that's very important to me. They also have Leicester at home this game week, so it feels natural to have at least one City player in general, because Marmoush is actually my only City player currently in the squad. But there are some other City players that I am considering as well. But yeah, Marmoush, been really good this season. He has taken the level of the Premier League pretty quickly. He takes direct free kicks. He takes some indirect free kicks as well, and corners and stuff. He's just a really good, terrific player all around, and it seems like he's going to be playing most games as well, even though he did get benched in Game Week 28 as well, which gave me a bit of a pause this past game week, which meant that I had Haaland rather than Marmoush. But now that Marmoush again showed his worth this past game week, I feel confident in him again to start the next few games, especially with City out of the Champions League and all that stuff as well. So yeah, Marmoush comes in at number 9 for all those reasons. Number 10, we have Jarrod Bowen, who is also sort of like a placeholder for Saka. If Bukayo Saka is ready to play in either Game Week 30 or 31, I think I might sell Bowen to get Saka. I might fund him that way, and then get Bowen in for Gordon in Game Week 33. I think that would be my way of thinking. But for now, I think Bowen is a pretty good option to have. Wolves away is a really nice fixture for him. Bournemouth at home is not the best, but at the same time, Bournemouth have been sort of slipping lately. So maybe having them as like a difficult fixture is a bit incorrect currently. I wouldn't think, or I think that West Ham have a decent chance of getting some points from that game. So I think that's also a decent game. Liverpool away is obviously not ideal, but you could always just bench him for that game week, because that's the game week where we have a lot of double game week players from the likes of Newcastle and Crystal Palace anyway. So it's just nice to have a benching option that game week. And then game week 33 is the main attraction there, especially if Brighton beat Nottingham Forest and go through in the cup, and the game week 33 fixture, or the game week 33 becomes a double game week for West Ham. Then it's just such a nice game week for Bowen. At home to Southampton, away to Brighton. He would be my captaincy choice if I don't have Haaland in that game week. So yeah, for all those reasons, I think he's a pretty important player to have. Whether I have him currently over Saka or whether I bring him in for Gordon in game week 33, I'm most likely going to have him if they do double in game week 33. And even if they don't double, it's Southampton at home, which is also a really nice fixture. So even if they don't double, I think West Ham are a decent team to have players from. And Bowen is the best attacking player for them, so that's why he comes in at number 10. Number 11, we have Nick Pope from Newcastle, my final Newcastle player. It just works out a little bit better when I have a Newcastle goalkeeper rather than a defender. It's basically down to being Pope or Burn for my final Newcastle asset. And like I said, with the backup goalkeeper that I have, I can show you it right now actually. He's the next pick, Areola, as my number 12 pick. He has a double in game week 34, most likely, or I'm hoping. But he doesn't have a good fixture in game week 33, and that's where I'm hoping to have Pope, or I will have Pope to have a double game week in that fixture instead. So I think Pope Areola is a pretty good goalkeeper combination, even if Pope loses his place for some reason. If the Barca gets that place back, we still have Areola as a backup player. So I quite like the goalkeeper combination of Pope and Areola, and I also quite like having another Newcastle player that doesn't really interfere with the starting 11 in terms of the outfield players, because there are a lot of good players that want to play over the likes of Burn, but not that many goalkeepers that want to play over the likes of Pope. So I quite like him at number 11. Number 12, Areola. I just think he's a pretty easy choice considering he's really cheap still. He's 4.3, 4.2. Can't quite remember actually if he's gone up in price or not. But anyways, he is just a really good player to have for the price that he is. West Ham are also looking a lot better defensively. That has been like one of the main things that Graham Potter has tried to do with West Ham. So they look a lot better defensively, and I think that's going to bode well for their clean sheet chances in the future as well. So I was thinking about doing Areola and Fabianski as well as just like a secure goalkeeper from West Ham for a really cheap price. I might do that still, but I do quite like having that third Newcastle player, and I also quite like having that extra defensive asset open by not having Burn instead. So yeah, it is between Pope and Fabianski really. But I do quite like Pope currently, and especially with the double game week in 32, it makes a lot of sense to have him on top of having Areola. So yeah, those two players are number 11 and 12 for those reasons. Number 13, we have Lewis Dunk, who is still like not completely ready to play, but I don't really need him to play now. I need him to play in game week 32 against Leicester. Potentially, might also bench him in that fixture for that matter in game week 32. But it is a nice player to have just in case. And also game week 33 might be a double game week for him, which would be really nice. Dunk is only 4.2 now. He's going to play every game for Brighton when he comes back, and he's probably going to help Brighton keep more clean sheets as well, because he is a pretty good defender. So yeah, just cheap price, potential double, decent fixtures across the season. Just seems like an easy solution as like a backup defender for a really cheap price. So yeah, Dunk for all those reasons. Also some goal threat and stuff. We know what Dunk can do from the past. So yeah, he comes in at number 13 as a pretty simple choice for me at least. Number 14, the final defender that I have is Dean Huijsen from Bournemouth. And again, like I mentioned with all the Kluivert reasons, Bournemouth have a decent chance of getting a double game week in 33 and in game week 36. And they also have really good fixtures leading up to game week 33 as well. So yeah, I think Huijsen is just a nice, safe defender to have. 4.5, he's going to play every game. He has some attacking threat from set pieces because he's so tall. Probably going to get some confidence boost from being in the Spain squad now as well. So yeah, quite like Huijsen as my final defender as well, and have a really strong defense in general. Muñoz, Gabriel, Timber, Dunk, and Huijsen. Dunk is most likely going to be benched most game weeks. Huijsen also going to be benched quite a few other game weeks. I might go with a different defender rather than the double Arsenal spots, but I quite like all my defenders in general. I do quite like Burn as well and Guardiola. But yeah, I'm going to talk more about them later on in the video as well when I talk about the on the cusp players. And finally, my final pick of my team is Rodgers. That's the one team that I have been missing, Aston Villa, because they have a really good chance of doubling in game week 33. Because either if they beat Preston, which they most likely will beat in the FA Cup, or even if they lose to Preston, if Man City go through, they will still most likely or almost guaranteed double in game week 33. with that in mind. They also have Southampton away in the game week before that as well, so they have really nice fixtures. Rodgers hasn't really been the best in FPL lately, but we know what he can do. He's been so good in the other competitions, in the Champions League, in the Cups. He's proven that he can score hat-tricks, he can score braces and stuff. Hasn't done that in the league for a while for some reason, but I don't think that is something, I don't think there's like a league curse or something on Rodgers. So I still quite like him, even though there are some other Aston Villa assets in midfield that I could prefer over him. But just both the price in terms of being 5.5 and the safety of minutes with Rodgers makes me select him over the likes of Asensio and Rashford. But there are reasons to pick other Aston Villa assets. Also, Watkins in attack is also a decent player that you could potentially go for, but I'm going to talk about him again later. But yeah, quite like Rodgers. I've had him for most of the season, only sold him a couple game weeks ago after having him from game week 1 all the way up until like game week 27 or whatever I had him until. And I don't mind getting him back because he's a really good player as well. So yeah, he comes in at number 15. Especially as we're still awaiting for Oscar Bob to be back from injury. He could be a really nice differential for Man City if he starts to play and stuff, but with Marmoush coming in and all those players available for City and Bob just coming back from a major injury, I also don't think he's like a major player to have currently either. But yeah, these are my 15 players that I have selected for the weekly wildcard drafts, or for my current wildcard draft as it were right now. Again, very much subject to change with some results in the FA Cup that we wouldn't expect, which is usually what happens, because normally it's not really 4 matches that go exactly as planned, because that is probably not a likely outcome either. So we'll see what happens this weekend, and I'll update you with a new squad for the team selection video on Monday. So yeah, we've gone through the 15 players. Let's look at the players that have dropped out since last time. As you can see, there's quite a lot of players with green hair. Pope is a new player, Gabriel, Timber, Dunk, Gordon, Rodgers, Mateta, and Marmoush. 8 new players means that 8 players have dropped out. There's a big reason for that, and that's because Game Week 29 was a blank game week, so you have to sort of plan differently for that game week. Now we have a lot more freedom in terms of who we can choose, and that means we have other better options than the ones that we had last week. So yeah, 8 changes from last time around. Let's go through all those players and talk about why I have dropped them out since the Game Week 29 wildcard draft. First and foremost, Evan Nilsson. I just think Isak, Mateta, and a Man City attacker, whether that's Marmoush or Haaland, is the better option currently, just because of the fixtures and the doubles that they have. I still think Evan Nilsson is a good pick. He did blank this past game week, sadly for me, as I went for him as a differential player. But I still think he's a good player, but I do think there's more value to be had in Isak and Mateta especially, and also Marmoush, or just like a City player in general. I feel like I need to have a City player because they have such good fixtures. They have decent chances of doubles, both in Game Week 33 and in Game Week 36. So yeah, just other players take precedence, and that's why Evan Nilsson is not in the squad. But I do think he's a good player still. If you have him and you're not wildcarding, you can easily just keep him. He has a really nice fixture against Ipswich at home now, West Ham away, and then Fulham at home, and then potentially a double game week in 33 as well. So he's a really good player to have still, but I do just prefer the other 3 strikers, so that's why he's dropped out. Morgan Gibbs-White, I think I would just prefer to have Elanga, who has the same amount of points as Gibbs-White this season. He's also a bit more explosive, so I do prefer him if I do want to go with a Nottingham Forest player. But currently, I still don't have a Nottingham Forest player. I haven't had a Nottingham Forest player all season, even in Game Week 29. So maybe that's just my gimmick, I guess, this season. Maybe that's why I've dropped out Gibbs-White as well from my actual team. Same could be said for Nico Williams. He's also someone in deep consideration. He's only 4.4, but I do just prefer Huijsen just because the more like the potential likelihood of a double game week in both Game Week 33 and Game Week 36 just edges it a little bit more than Nico Williams. So I do quite like Nico Williams. He's a pretty cheap asset from Nottingham Forest to place every single game, so he is a really nice player to have. But I just prefer Huijsen and Dunk for other reasons, basically. So yeah, he's dropped out. Gabriel, who I mentioned a couple times, was really close to including him over Gabriel or Timber in this team as well, but I just ended up going with the double Arsenal players for one reason or another. I just think they're a better defense, and yeah, I don't really trust City that much. But Gabriel is still a really good player to have, and I might go with him over Gabriel in the end. That is something that I might change for the team next time around. But yeah, Gabriel, really good player, but just didn't feel like it, I guess, for this wildcard draft. Haaland as well, just prefer Marmoush. He's cheaper, playing for the same team, and has pretty similar attacking threat, pretty similar FPL points as well. If you look since Marmoush came, a lot of that is concentrated in 2 games from Marmoush, where he got like 14 and 17 points, but that's also a good thing with Marmoush. He is quite explosive, and you do get those points as well if you play them. And yeah, most likely I'm not going to captain Haaland that much, so I just prefer the cheaper option in Marmoush. So yeah, he's not in the squad. Aitnori as well. No chances of double game weeks, and I do want to sort of attack the double game weeks in general. That's the main reason. I also just quite like a lot of defenders this week, and Aitnori I didn't have place for him. Henderson, again, this is more catered to my team and my needs, and since I'm going to use assistant managership most likely on Glasner in one of those 3 game weeks in game 31, 32, or 33, then I just can't have another Palace player, and I do prefer Muñoz and Mateta over the likes of Henderson, Sarr, and Eze, basically. So yeah, Henderson sorted out since because of that. Finally, Manetzi, who was a bit of a punt last time around since he had a really good fixture for Wolves against Southampton in game 29. Instead, it was Bellegarde who had the 2 assists and got the points, sadly. So I missed a little bit on that. But I still think Manetzi is a nice player. But again, sort of the same as with Aitnori, no huge chances of double game weeks. So they just have to go by the wayside compared to other players that have a chance of getting a double game week. Because as you can see from my team, apart from Salah, every single other player has a double game week already or could potentially get a double game week. So yeah, that's a major point of the season now. If you are using your wildcard, you want to load up on as many double game week players as possible. And yeah, we just have to take the FA Cup results into account when it comes to that as well. But yeah, we talked about the squad. We talked about the players that have dropped out since last time. Let's talk about the 3 players that were on the cusp, or 1 player from each position: defender, midfielder, and attacker. They were close to making the squad, but didn't for some reason or another. First and foremost, in attack, Watkins is someone that I am looking very much forward to have potentially, especially in that double game week. I could have him the Southampton game week as well. Could also go with Watkins. I do quite like him, but I do just, again, Isak and Mateta are like kind of no-brainers for me. I think they're both really, really good for the next 3 game weeks. And then Marmoush, I just feel like I need to have a City player. Marmoush has been really good, and I do quite like having Marmoush as my player. I wish I had him this past game week. I've wanted to have him in FPL since he joined the Premier League, and I think I'm finally going to fulfill that promise and having him now, and that means that I don't have enough room for Watkins. But the good thing about Watkins is the fact that he has most likely, or like pretty securely, a double game week fixture in game week 33, and he has Southampton in game week 32 as well. So 2 really nice fixtures there in a row for him, which means I might go with him as my striker if I choose to do so. But I just really like Isak, Mateta, and Marmoush or Haaland as my striker. So that's the main reason why Watkins is not in the squad. Asensio, just can't be too sure about his minutes. He's been so good when it comes to scoring goals for Aston Villa. So maybe I should go with him over Rodgers. But at the same time, I also have Asensio is also more expensive than Rodgers. And I can't really afford to have Asensio in the team if I want to have Glasner or someone else as my assistant manager for that matter, using my assistant manager chip. So yeah, Asensio for minutes reasons and for cost reasons, I just have to go with Rodgers instead. And finally, Burn, I do think it just works out better for me to have a Newcastle goalkeeper than a Newcastle defender, but I do quite like Burn as a potential defensive player to have with a double game week confirmed and 2 really good fixtures before that as well. So yeah, those are all the players, all my thoughts for the wildcard as of right now. I'll have the updated thoughts after the weekend with the new team selection for the Monday. Probably Monday evening, I'm going to put out that video the day before the deadline for the next game week in game week 30, which we're all looking forward to now after a long international break. I think it's going to be nice to get into the home stretch of the FPL season and finally see if I can push on and be in those ranks that I want to be. Currently, I'm in 149k, had a really nice game week this past game week. Really happy with that. Had Fernandes captain again for the 2nd time in a row, or 2nd time this season that I've captained Fernandes. I've gotten 17 points from him, so really happy about that as well. But I'll talk more about that in the next video. Or not in the next video, in the team selection video on Monday as well. I will do the podcast tomorrow, Thursday, today as you're watching this video. And I'll post that video on Friday as well. So I'll have another video before the team selection video on Monday as well. So you can look forward to that. You can subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video because that helps in the algorithm, and comment down below if there's any questions you have, any thoughts you have. If you're wildcarding yourself and you want to, or if you're wildcarding and you have used your assistant manager, you can ask me about that as well, and I can probably or I can try to do my best to answer your questions as well. But yeah, with all that out of the way, thank you for watching as always. See you next time. It's good to be back, both in terms of making FPL videos and in terms of playing FPL. So see you next time. Bye bye.